Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to my conversations with women on religion, faith, spirituality, and lack thereof. Kelly joins me today. She is a 50-year-old feminist, activist, and organizer. So, Kelly, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Happy
Thank you
to
very
be
much
here.
for coming. And I'm excited about this. What religion do you practice now, or what spirituality path do you practice now?
I would say that I identify my current spirituality as a patchwork. My overall belief is that various religions are attempts to talk about a larger divine that is sort of bigger than, all the things, kind of the many pathways up the mountain kind of idea. Like a religion might be a pathway up the mountain in seeking the divine, or whatever it is that we're seeking in religion, that there's something that's bigger than all the religions, in my view.
So, what spirituality or religion did you grow up in, and did you change? And if so, why?
So I was born into a Mormon family in Utah. My parents were in college when they had me. And so I was exposed to a certain flavor of Christianity, and I would say one that has some significant gender role ideology and a particularly patriarchal flavor compared to some of the other options. And when I was 8 years old, that's the time where you would get baptized. It was very clear to me at that time, at 8 years old, that this was something that I was doing to make my father happy. I kind of already had issues with it. And when I was 9 years old, I became friends with two Catholic girls, and I started going to catechism with them. And I was extremely attracted. One of the reasons I had problems with Mormonism is because I would say, well, where's Heavenly Mother? How can you have Heavenly Father without Heavenly Mother? It didn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah.
So when
the questions I had, yes.
So when I turned to Catholicism, it has its issues, and I'm not a Catholic either now, but I was very interested. I was attracted to Mary. I was very interested in all the saints, the chanting, the incense. Like aesthetically, it was very pleasing to me, and I was extremely interested. It had a lot of stories that were very different than the ones I'd been exposed to. So I've had more Catholic school than many Catholics.
Me too. I went to a Catholic school.
And so that I feel like that has shaped me. As I became a young adult, I was very interested in philosophy, and I took a world religion class right away. And I feel, as I mentioned, that for me, something that would not match with me at all is any belief that thinks that they're the only answer. My values say, like, there's more than one right way. There's not, I ain't telling you how to be kind of vibration. So they sent me a letter saying that I was no longer part of the Mormon Church.
Wow.
So I'm officially not a Mormon. And part of that is because I got very involved in feminist. I became a feminist when I was 7 years old, and I read the Equal Rights Amendment. I was 7 years old in 1979, and the Equal Rights Amendment there was an attempt for it to be ratified, and it didn't get ratified. And I was not happy about it. I was plugged in.
Right. Question. So you became a feminist. So basically Mormonism has, I guess, maybe feminism as sin. Is that what you are saying? Or what's
I think that I saw a certain pathway that was laid out within the Mormon Church. Motherhood is super highly valued. Male leadership is assumed. And I was kind of like looking for an alternative from go. And I was very interested, in particular, was where was Holy Mother? I'm one of a very big family. I knew when I was a teenager that I was not going to have any. I'm child free by choice, but all of my multiple sisters and brothers, and they all have children. And I'm an auntie. I love children.
Right.
So I didn't have to, I could see that I didn't need to have any children, that was being done by some other people around me. And I could choose something different than what my mother had offered. My mother was into it.
Right.
But I was interested in different choices. And I think as a young person, say 17, 18, 19, 20, or I almost saw that my choices were pretty radical. Like they were either be a heterosexual Mormon or come out as a lesbian. You know, like
what I guess I probably should know the answer, but Mormonism and same-sex attraction. Could you talk a little about that?
What would you call their doctrines are pretty against it, to the point that the leadership of the church was telling families that if you have one gay child, you want to not have that child around the other children, and that you wanted to, you know, love the sinner or hate the sin, that you almost the way that someone might treat someone who had a drug addiction, where you like,
right,
you know, your cousin who's addicted is going to come take money from your purse every time.
Yes.
You know, kind of like almost that kind of pathologization.
Wow. If you don't mind my asking, how do you identify heterosexual, bisexual, lesbian, and what was that like coming out, if you are lesbian or bisexual?
Sure. Well, I first decided when I was a teenager that I was bisexual, and I had a very clear idea. I had a sort of a latent lesbian relationship with a high school best friend.
Yeah.
We weren't sexual, but I kind of like knew that it wasn't a safe place to do that. I was in a high school that was, I was just putting in time to get to college. I started college a week after I graduated from high school. I enrolled in summer school. Okay. And by the first 6 months of college, I was out of the closet. And I asked out a woman within, you know, that autumn. And I came out officially on October 11th of 1990 on National Coming Out Day.
Wow.
So I graduated high school in June, and by October I was something besides straight. I spent quite a number of years identifying as bisexual. I also had a lot of girlfriends. My college sweetheart I had a girlfriend for about 2.5 years, and we broke up because she moved to Russia. And then after that, I got another girlfriend, and I wasn't exclusively dating women. I was dating a lot of people. I'm now married to a woman. Okay. So, and I've been married for, depending on the definition of marriage, like 10 to 6 years, because the first time we got married, we had a wedding on the 40th anniversary of Stonewall, June 28th, 1990 was my lesbian wedding. So my parents were there, and it was really good. My family had an interesting take on the dogma of the religion, because Mormonism, it really does value family. Right. And my family kind of made the decision that they thought the value of family trumped the criticism about sexuality, and that they, you know, I sometimes had disagreements with some of my family members, but in general, they were like, no, we ain't going to reject you. We want you to be happy and do you. I always felt like my mother's message to me was that she wanted me to be happy, and that she wasn't judging me, and I didn't have to make the same choices as her. So that's all I got from her.
So I guess, you know, and unfortunately so, it's safe to say that being a lesbian in a same-sex marriage, you probably would not be welcomed into the Mormon Church again. Is that correct?
I think if I attempted to go to a Mormon church, it would be completely weird. And I don't think that they would be very welcoming to me once they kind of figured out who I was. No.
Okay. What about now your new path? How is that going?
So I I became an adult. I started college right away,
Mhm.
really to get out of the situation I was in a certain way. It was, I
Mhm.
could see, was a way to have a different life. I came out right away.
Right.
Um, and I started to learn about philosophy. And my personal feeling is that religion and philosophy, you can kind of get in there with some tweezers, decide which is which. But I studied
Mhm.
world religions. I became very interested in Buddhism. My wife and I
Right.
had a second ceremony because of the legal ramifications of lesbian same-sex marriage. And
Yes.
one of our ceremonies was in a Buddhist congregation that we sometimes attend. So I've been to several day meditation retreats, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
say I'm a super serious Buddhist, but I know more about Buddhism than the average American.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I
Interesting.
meditate. I think that it has value, and I
Mhm.
especially I'm really resonate to the idea of the the Dharma, the Sangha, and the no, I can't think. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, basically, as
Right.
a conceptualization of spiritual community that I really get, and I would apply it
Mhm.
to a Christian congregation where you have people come because of the community of being together
Yes.
in and having the same focus. There's something really
Mhm.
beautiful about that. And so I am active in spiritual
Right.
community now. And I'm kind of a bit of a community hopper. I'm connected to
Mhm.
various spiritual communities, including Buddhist. I also have quite an involvement in what I would call women's spirituality or nature-based
Yes.
spirituality.
Mhm.
Um, I'm of Northern European ancestry, and my
Right.
first sort of goddess engagement was with Bridget, who I had
Okay.
a um a dedication, it's called, where you can say
Mhm.
I would have a personal relationship with the divine. And
Right.
I conceptualize the divine as really bigger than all of us and any idea that humans can have about it, but that
Mhm.
we
Yeah,
that's what humans do.
yes, I was going to ask along those lines. Like I know in Mormonism they believe in, I guess, the Abrahamic God, even though they may have a different take here and there. So when you mention goddess, like so do you believe in a goddess, or does the goddess represent nature, or can you just tell me a little bit more about that, about the goddess?
So my overall philosophical point of view is that um, man creates God in his image, if you will.
Okay. Yes.
And so in the goddess traditions, that's embraced. And we
Mhm.
might say that goddess has 1,000 faces, and that we might relate to an aspect of the goddess, like, for example, Bridget or Yemaya or
Okay.
Gaia, which would be the divine goddess energy being the living nature of the earth. What is
Okay.
sentient about the living earth is Gaia.
Mhm.
So there's many, I'm definitely not, I would say, polytheist. I'm more towards the polytheistic in the point of view that I see that there's many
Right.
ways to engage with our understanding of the divine. And I think that there's not one
Mhm.
right answer. I think
Right.
something if somebody really feels that Jesus is their savior, go for it.
Mhm.
I have a different relationship with Jesus.
Right.
It's not particularly Christian.
Okay. I'm curious about that. Can you tell me more?
Well, I mean, I'm very interested in the fact when you look into the life of Jesus and the Aramaic language that he spoke and the
Mhm.
cultures of that time, that this person that we would historically think of as Jesus studied
Mhm.
extensively with Jews, studied
Mhm.
extensively with Muslims.
Mhm.
And so the idea even that I can't even believe Christians are like, this is the one true path, because it's like, even your own religion don't say that. Right? It can't be Jesus or nothing. Come on.
Right.
And and I'm a person who, well, I'm not a traditional Christian in any sense of the
Yeah.
way, especially because I became interested in Mary as a child. That
Mhm.
on sometimes finding myself say like, "Oh, Mother of Jesus, please help me."
Okay.
I'm praying to
Yeah.
Mary, you know. And all
I
along, I was like, "Where's Mama spiritually? Like, how could you just
yes.
have a male?" I mean, I was suspicious of a
Mm-hmm.
divinity that was male. Like, that didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I hear a lot about that, and I totally get it. I'm wondering, do you feel, and it's okay to say no, because I know not everyone is going to say yes to this. Do you feel that there might be any cons? Like, I know like there are pros, like any cons to your new path, or anything that people may, get tripped up on, or anything that might be, I don't want to say negative, but
The shadow side of it.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm,
I would say if someone were to be critiquing what I'm doing,
mhm,
they might say that I should pick one thing and focus as opposed to find a lot of things really meaningful.
mhm,
I think I could, although I don't think I'm personally engaging in appropriation, I think I could be at risk of being accused of appropriating. I feel like I'm right with
mhm.
it. I know what I'm doing, but I could see that as a criticism. Someone else doesn't like my
Mhm.
relationship to what they feel is theirs.
Right, right. You mentioned before that you are of Northern European heritage. Did that influence your moving towards the goddess type way of looking at things? Or because I hear a lot from Black or African American women where they go into like maybe Yoruba because of a connection to West Africa. I'm just wondering if that's the same for you as a Northern European descended
Um,
woman.
I would say, okay, so my genetic heritage is I'm like half Danish, and I'm
Okay.
also Welsh and Irish
Hmm.
and English and French. So I'm like,
Hmm.
right. And what I know is that before, in older times, that really were not that long ago. We're talking a thousand
Right.
years ago,
Hmm.
maybe 2,000 years ago. The people living there were very much in relationship with the earth in a
Hmm.
sacred way.
Right.
And there was that the colonization and Christianity go hand in hand.
Hmm.
That's the finger, that's the, point my finger critique at Christianity, is
Yeah.
that it's in bed with colonization.
Hmm.
So that happened in Ireland.
Yeah.
It happened in those areas just as it's happened in many places of the world. So they're almost like the first wave of Christian
Right.
colonization was my heritage, people who were my ancestors.
Right.
And in many ways, just like in every culture, the we adapt,
Hmm.
and so many Christian holidays are clearly pagan holidays. I
Yeah.
mean,
Christmas, Easter.
so to answer your question, though, I do feel like I've had attraction to what I would call many facets of the goddess, but I
Hmm.
think I was conscious to um, choose to start with one that I felt really came from my ancestry.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I hear a lot of people, find comfort in that. Last two things. And I guess this answer should probably be obvious because I think we touched on this already. Do you feel that your new path is better for women than, let's say, the Abrahamic religions? Honest answers are welcome.
Of course. I would say that one of my critiques of being raised a Mormon was this idea that males held the priesthood over females, and kind of talk. They told my mama not to bring me to Sunday school because I was asking questions too much that were getting off track.
Yeah.
And and that included like, what do you mean? Are like men closer? Are you saying men are closer to God?
Yes. I mean, essentially, they're
So
saying, even though they're not saying it. Mhm.
I was not buying that. I think
Mhm.
that religion is often used as a form of socialization process, and that's in sometimes many good ways. We want to learn good from bad,
Right.
etc. But I also think that to see ourselves as a reflection of or in relationship to the divine is a
Mhm.
very important piece of spirituality. So if
Right.
God is only a man or only a woman, even though, although I feel a little different about it, if I have to be
Mhm.
100% honest, because everyone, mother is sort of, there's this cosmic mother thing That's really
Mhm.
powerful.
Yes.
But also we all come from a mama. We can all see that we came
Yes.
from mama. I can't figure out how I came from papa without mama, but I can
I-
kind of just,
True, true.
I can accept mama as the, taking up all the screen.
Mhm.
you know,
Right. That's a great point. Great point.
you know,
Um, any last final thoughts on women in spirituality and religion that you'd like to
yes,
share?
I do think that the opportunity to look at divine female and a feminine spirituality can definitely be a part of female empowerment that is really
Mhm.
important. That as we look at patriarchy and deconstructing it, we can't be setting aside religion. And in fact, the community and connection of female spirituality, I think, is really powerful. And
Yes.
also, at a time in which sex-based rights are under attack, there's religious
Yes.
freedom that can protect us. I have friends who formed, I know women, there's a local church called Women of the Sacred Fern,
Really?
specifically as to create a religious protection for single sex space.
Wow. I know someone who mentioned just that, trying to form something. That's interesting.
So, I mean,
Very.
I think I don't want to be cynical about female, divine, about what I would call women's spirituality, but there is a certain extra legal religious protection that is detailed in our legal documents that can be helpful in this difficult time.
Right. Wow. And it is a difficult time in more ways than one. Mm. Thank you for, joining me today. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And just thank you for sharing your story. And I'm sure that anyone watching will have learned from this. Thank you so much.
One last thing I do want to say, this is not
Yes.
just about ideas. We are out there and active. If you like, I made a little video yesterday that I'm going to send to you of women singing at a bonfire on women's land that was happening yesterday for summer solstice. So when it was happening, I thought, this is on point. So I will send that along to you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing it. I look
All
forward
right.
to it.
I enjoyed talking with you. I hope we can continue our conversation.
Yes, we can. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Kelly. Okay.
Bye-bye.